Have you ever wished you could ask somebody how the process went, what they did right, what they did wrong, or what they recommend specifically about building a new construction house? We're going to tackle that right now. So this episode is going to be like no other episode. This is a special episode. I have a client, Amy, here. Amy's going to tell us we're going to go through the beginning of the process from the thought when you first decided to purchase a house, which statistics show it's roughly 12 to 16 months from the time somebody actually thinks about buying a house to the time they actually close on it. So I don't know if you guys actually thought about buying new construction from the beginning, or was it the area of interest from the beginning, and what led you to the actual result, which let me give a little backstory. The result is I had some modular homes listed. We have a model that was about 80% done, and then we sold the other 5 units off of that model, and the buyers got to pick all of their finishes and colors, etc. So when did it first come into, how did you guys start the process?
Yeah, so we had a house on Mount Washington that we really liked, and we're happy there, but I think we always thought it was a little bit of a starter home and that we would eventually move somewhere else.
Right.
And it was kind of, we really like the north side, the North Shore. We like the Mexican War streets. We like going over to the park and the restaurants over there, and we sort of thought we would target that area, but it was several years away.
Right.
And I sort of started taking notice of real estate in the area, and I signed up for Zillow and other sites like that to kind of keep my eye on stuff and see how often does inventory become open? What's the price ranges? What are the floor plans like? How often, all that kind of stuff, just to...
What year would that have been now that we're in 2022? Is that 19, 20, 21?
I guess 19 or 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to learn something because I really didn't know anything.
Sure. Self-educate.
Yeah. And I did always want to do new construction because there's so many older homes over there. So I knew if it was an older home, it was probably going to have to be redone, which I didn't want to do all of that work.
Right.
I'm fine making decisions about looks and things like that, but
right.
I didn't want, I wanted it to just come done instead of moving in and having to wait, a month for this to be done, a month for that to be done, all that kind of stuff. Right. So I didn't want to work through all of that. So then I started looking at how often is new construction in that area. And it turns out it was somewhat frequent. In fact, from my research, more than any other neighborhood in this city.
I think that's...
Or maybe Lawrenceville has a lot.
Yeah, Lawrenceville has a lot of new construction. That's actually a pretty good... I'm actually going to pull that stat on the MLS and see what is brand new, which set. Because there's typically, there's the east side of Pittsburgh, south side, the north side, and then there's Lawrenceville. So I'm not quite sure the answer on that, but that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, and we looked at Lawrenceville too, and the style of the home and all that kind of stuff was great, but I thought it was a little bit more expensive.
I agree. And
I also thought it wasn't as accessible.
So where?
To get out of Lawrenceville takes longer than to get out of Northside or to get out of Mount Washington or whatever.
Correct.
And that's even I used to live in Shadyside. That was something, I love Shadyside, but it's hard to get out of Shadyside.
It's not easy,
it takes 10, 20 minutes to get out of it.
Absolutely.
So that was an appeal of Northside too. And then Southside, I liked Southside too, but there is always there's all the bars and all that kind of stuff. So in the street parking is not as good. So we sort of weighed our options there. And North Side, we saw more construction coming up.
Right.
And I remember there was a home on Alpine Street, I think, that I absolutely loved. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I could buy this house. And this was probably in 2019, and we just weren't ready yet.
Right.
But it really lit a fire under my butt, and I started looking more and more and more, and I was like, oh my gosh, that kind of place is never gonna become open again. And then it kind of did.
Oh,
and so we would be over in that area and ran across these homes, and it was the exact same floor plan. It's row homes. I think row homes are super charming. I lived in Philly for 4 years, and there's millions of row homes there. It's all row homes.
Yep.
They're really cool looking. And these ones I thought were cool because it was new construction, but they had the style of the rest of the street. So they didn't look totally like crazy out of nowhere. Like they sort of had the same style, but they were brand new inside.
Yep.
And so I liked that the floor plan was something I already liked, but I got to pick all the rest of the stuff. So then that made me feel like I still got to personalize it.
So let me ask you a question. When new construction you said earlier was something you gravitated towards because you didn't have to renovate a house. There's multiple forms of new construction. We ended up working on the new construction where you were allowed to pick all your own finishes. Did you first start out thinking, I want to be able to pick my own finishes, or I just want new construction because it's new technology and new finishes and new colors, or did you not care?
I wanted to be able to pick enough that made it feel like my style. So in my career, I work in architectural coatings, so I have some knowledge of, current interior design trends and those kind of things, and doing that every single day kind of makes you have a little bit more interest in it. So I sort of had a vision of like this space I wanted to create and how I wanted it to feel, and I felt like I needed to have a certain level of control in order to get to that.
I agree. So the thought came in your head, you did a little bit of Zillowing, and you couldn't find anything that you like. You eventually find something you like, but you have a house to sell. So what was the next step in that process for you?
Yeah, I remember we saw that these homes were being built from just being in the neighborhood and seeing like what was going on. And I think we kept an eye on them for a while. Like it might have been 6 months. It might have been a year. I don't even know.
That's good to note for everybody that's listening and watching that you don't have to make a knee-jerk reaction most of the time. We had 5 available. Mm-hmm. You guys were the first ones to purchase. So I want to make sure buyers don't feel like they're pressured. Unless there's only one new construction house, different story. But if there's a bunch, it took these guys 6 months to finally kind of get the ball rolling.
Yeah,
it's a hell of a ball.
Yeah, we would go down the street and like look at the, where the construction was at, every so often we were in the neighborhood and see the progress. And I think because of COVID, it was probably taking a lot longer than it, would have normally. And so I don't think we were like super pressured. But then my husband got a new job. I got promoted at work, and we were kind of like, maybe this is the time, we're going through these other changes. Like maybe this is the time to sort of jump in here. And so I remember, and the construction started looking like it was sort of picking up a little bit. Like,
and at this point in time, it's not walkable.
No, I don't think.
The units weren't together.
No, I think there was like a frame, and then I remember we started to go by and like the brick was starting to go up. And that was when I was like, oh, maybe we should look into this. And I remember there was a big sign and it had your name, and I was like, I'm just going to call. And I remember calling, and like, I don't know anything. Like, I've never sold a house. I never bought it. My husband had bought our house before we were married.
Right.
And like, I didn't know anything. So I didn't know if, like, I thought I was just calling to like get some general information. Like, it kind of went pretty quickly, actually, which is probably good for me, but I didn't know what to expect, like, at all.
And that's good for people to watch. A lot of people, I don't think, understand the process unless you've been through it at least once, maybe twice. And honestly, it's changed over the years. It's a completely different process. So I'm glad we're taking potential buyers through the process. So it starts with a phone call. It starts with Zillow, really. And as an agent, we've been taught that over the last 10, 15 years that before Zillow, it would be hard to get buyers and sellers to get moving. But now with Zillow, people sign up and have no intention of buying a home, but then they start thinking, could I use a bigger place? Could I use a smaller place? Okay, then you get a promotion, then you get a new job, and you're thinking, Zillow pings keep coming in your inbox. You're like, oh, okay. So that's how it really starts. And then you go and visit the general neighborhood over and over and over. And then eventually, something in life pushes you to make that phone call, send that email, or come to that open house. And then from there, we just started rolling.
Yeah, and I remember looking at Zillow, and like, you can see how many other people view.
I know.
And you're like, oh, they're beating me, and so, which you really love to hear.
So funny story, I control that number. I put numbers in there. No, I'm just kidding. I saw her look, let me add 100 people. No, we have no control over that.
But then on the seller side, you're like, oh my gosh, look, all these people are looking. So it's like, it's a trap.
It is a trap. And it's a good metric, because as soon as I put it on, every seller says, oh, look, there's, so many people people viewed it and so many people saved it. But with new construction, it takes us a lot longer. Like the days on market could be a year, and that's because we put it on the market as soon as we have to have a foundation in the ground in order to put it on the MLS. So as soon as that happens, and it takes 6 months for somebody to come out and start looking and maybe pull the trigger. So the days on market, the views and the saves are going to be a lot higher than a resale like on yours, because that yours comes on the market and goes right back off. Okay, so let's continue with the process. You end up calling me and asking about details about the actual project.
Yeah, and I remember, I think I was able to view on the website like what the floor plan looked like. So I already knew it was like exactly the floor plan I'd wanted, because I referenced that other street, that house on the other street that I really it was like the same floor plan. So I was like, okay, this is the floor plan I know I want. This is the neighborhood I know I want.
Right, 2 + 2.
So so that's great. And then so I think like a lot of that was kind of pre-decided. Like that's probably not what everybody else's experience is like, I would think. And I'm decisive.
That's good.
So
real good.
You had that working in your favor.
I love it. I love decisive people.
Yeah. So I think we were really, really interested because it really checked all those boxes for us. And then I think actually seeing it and everything, and like our particular home, has a rooftop deck, which is just incredible. Like it's hard to not be wowed by it.
So she brought up a couple good points. New construction agents, make sure you put the floor plans on the MLS, or if you put it on the MLS in Pittsburgh, it automatically goes to Zillow and Realtor.com. I usually have a photo of that, and I put it up in the photos, because you don't usually have a lot of photos with new construction anyway. So that helped her out in buying that, and it just checked all the boxes. So when it checks all the boxes, you move early, which is a great point I want to point out. If you are interested, buyers, in a condo, a row house, a freestanding home in a community that just started, buy early, get in early, because you get a discount. Now, it may not be a discount, but what happens is when they do price increases, you don't get hit with those price increases. And the project you're talking about, we did do price adjustments that went up 10 grand higher at the end as the inventory became more scarce. So those are all good points.
Yeah, and we also got to our first pick of which one we wanted.
Yeah, that's another great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so if you're buying, let's just say, so we are talking about in the city of Pittsburgh where it's dense and they're attached, but there are also like Ryan Home communities, Miranda communities. If you get in early, I mean, they only have so many lots they have carved out, and the best lots always go first. So if you are considering and something comes up and hits some of your buttons, you want to be decisive, because there's more benefits to being decisive than there is sitting on the sidelines too long. And I have a luxury condo building in Lawrenceville, and a couple of the early adopters got in at a lower price. And the building wasn't even erected yet. Once it got erected, they saw some units above them that were better, and since they were early adopters, they got to move up even quicker. So a lot of advantages, I think, to moving kind of quick early in the project.
I'll say a con or something.
There's always going to be con.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Or something, I don't know, just something that you need to be aware of is like, well, you're going to be the guinea pig too. So all the kind of like stuff that they have to work out and the issues that, like, it's inevitable they're going to run into issues. So you need to decide, are you someone that's cool with that? Are you okay with a wrench being thrown at you every now and then? Or is that going to drive you nuts? If it's going to drive you absolutely nuts, and that's fair, then be the third or fourth or fifth unit or whatever. But for us, we were kind of okay with we totally know that's going to happen, and believe me, we have gone through like every single thing that could possibly sort of need fixing, get like all that, like we've gone through it and we've kind of been okay. I mean, I'm not going to say it's like every day is a picnic, but like we've been okay with it. We realize that that's the price that we're paying for that. And
that's a good point. That's the lower price you pay, is you are kind of the guinea pig. So if you're working with a developer, this is their first project, which was in your case, it's kind of a learning curve for them as well. And then of course, we're in these pandemic times, and now we're talking about wars and all kind of stuff. So there's a lot of unknowns out there. So you need to have a backup plan, which I'm going to talk about a little now, and probably maybe a separate podcast. And that is, we're seeing now that people have rate locks that are expiring. Of course, you have wherever you're habitating, you're either renting from somebody, you're staying at home, or you have a home to sell, which we're going to get into probably next. They had a home they needed to sell first in order to move in. So there's a lot of things to think about. So it might early adopter is if you have a chill personality, I think, or if you're cheap and you want to get that special price, there is a price to pay. There is a reason why you get that discount, and that is you are kind of the guinea pig. And you are suspect or are open to delays. But if you want a little more certainty when the building's already up, then you come in a little bit later. You get less choices. You might pay a little bit more, but it's a little bit more of a comfort feeling at the end of the day, I would say. Mm-hmm. So you had to sell your house in order to buy. How did we end up working that?
Yeah, so that was like so fast. I remember we were like fast and furious, like, getting everything ready to put on the market, which was good. Like, I appreciated how quickly we worked on everything. I mean, it was all up and running so fast. And we had a lot of interest. I think we had like 30 showings or something. It was like a lot. Yep. And because we both work from home, like, we were there for a lot of them, which would not have been our choice.
Right.
We tried to get out when we could, but if it's in the middle of the day on a Tuesday, like, we're working, we can't just up and leave every time. And so we ended up being there for a lot of them, which I don't know was good or bad.
I mean, we always prefer the sellers not be home because the buyers can talk a little more freely. But I literally just came from a showing. I was showing my buyer a house, and in the instructions to me, this listing agent said that there are cameras inside and outside the home. So it's almost as if they were there. But the buyers do sometimes like a lot of privacy to be able to talk freely amongst themselves about different floors as they walk through.
We ended up like talking to so many people that came through, and the people that ended up buying our house, we talked to them so much. So I think in that case it kind of helped out. Right. And because we also ended up having to rent back from them, which I'm sure we'll get to. But yeah, the whole process was crazy. And they ended up coming and seeing our house like 4 or 5 times, which crazy. I think is pretty unusual.
It's very unusual. And honestly, the market's gotten hotter since we've sold your home. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
There's not enough time. I mean, the house sells before you can come back twice.
Yeah.
I showed a house yesterday and the buyer sort of liked it. And before the end of the night, the listing agent contacted me and said some other buyers made an aggressive offer they couldn't refuse. So it's gotten even crazier. And
like our next door neighbors put their house up for sale. That was odd. They had one showing and that person bought it. And it was a weird thing. We didn't know what to make of all of it.
Right. Yeah.
we didn't know what we were doing. Like, not like we had sold our house before. We didn't, we had nothing to compare it to.
Right. So my advice to my sellers whenever in this type of situation is, worst case scenario, have some place to go. I have some buyers right now for the Lawrenceville lofts that are renting hotel rooms or Airbnbs. That's like the worst case scenario. Or if you have parents or family in town, that's the next worst case scenario for most people. But what we ended up doing, and it was frequent pre-pandemic, and that would be, you always want to close ASAP no matter which side of the transaction you're on. If you're the sellers, you want to close right away because you get your money and there's a less chance of something falling apart. Same with the buyers too. You want to close right away, and so there's no chance of the seller maybe getting cold feet. So we always try to close right away, and it always depends. Every time I go to a listing appointment and they're like, oh, what do we do if we sell right away? Well, we have to meet the buyer first. If the buyer is in a lease that's another 6 months, it's ideal, or they're staying at home or they're month to month, you can maybe rent back from them. Why wouldn't they want to have their mortgage covered? It's an investment for them. And that is what we did with you guys, is you just rented directly from the sellers for a couple extended periods of time. I do believe. How many times did we extend?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. Like the closing date changed a couple times. Right. And then, we ended up running back, and I think we had a target date that moved a few times, and then throw in the fact that we had our wedding.
Oh my God, that's right.
We were getting married. We got married December 10th, and I remember saying, like, please don't make me be homeless for my wedding. So it was so crazy. Like, I don't recommend doing all of that at once. But so we ended up running back from them until like the end of the year. Yeah.
And even then we needed more time, but they were like, we got to get in.
Yeah, right. And we did stay at the Monaco for like a week.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
That's not too shabby.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah. We were there New Year's Eve.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then then we got in.
So that's kind of a lesson I want to point out to other people watching this, agents, buyers, and sellers. It's really important to get along with the other side of the transaction if you can, because she needed extra time, then she needed extra time beyond that, then we needed extra time beyond that. Now, had it been a contentious, heated transaction throughout the inspection process and all that, the chances of the seller wanting to put the screws to the buyers is highly. I've seen it all. I've seen buyers and sellers fighting over absolutely nothing, but it's just like an ego thing. Like, we got to win this battle, and then one party needed something from the other, and the other party's like, no, we're in this heated, negative relationship. We're not going to give you anything extra. So that is a very good point, is try to always get along with the other side of the transaction all the way through.
Yeah, I think we got lucky. They were really lovely people, and we enjoyed them.
Yeah, and it was unusual that you guys, a lot of times as agents, we try not to let the buyers and sellers get each other's contact info, because I've had that go sideways as well. But in this instance, it ended up working out better than we could have possibly imagined.
I think so. I think it was almost unordinary how much we just got along, and I think they're probably similar in age and things that. And I think we just vibed. So it worked out in our favor.
Do you still talk to them?
Every now and then we'll get a couple texts here and there, and we actually she really liked my decor, and I was like, well, I'm buying brand new stuff for my house, so if you want some of my decor, we can talk.
So she made money.
Yeah, so I ended up selling her some of my stuff too.
That's cool. So then we closed. You stayed in place, rented for a while, then eventually your lease or whatever you had with the new buyers ended up terminating. You stayed in a hotel for a little while, which again, people watching this consider new construction. Not uncommon for you to possibly have to have auxiliary housing for a period of time. I have buyers right now at the Lawrenceville lofts that closing keeps getting pushed back. And I'm going to make this statement on this podcast and probably everyone in new construction. The developer, the builder, there is nobody in this transaction that wants to close more than them. Even if you have a rate lock that it's expiring, even if you have no place to live, it is costing that developer, that builder, money every single day. It's eating out of their profit every day, and it's causing a world of stress. The stress you have is getting dumped on the developer, and if there's 6 units, there's 6 times that stress being dumped on a developer. If there's 25 units, 25 times the stress, because we have the buyers, we have the appraisers, we have the lenders, everybody contacting the developer trying to figure out. And again, it costs them money, and hard money costs. Or if they have an HOA they're paying for, they need to get their money back. So nobody wants to close it more so than them. So I encourage you buyers, try not to get too angered with the developer. Sometimes they're giving you the answer. 90% of the time, they're giving you the answer. The builder, the ones that are actually swinging the hammer, and that they're a separate entity. They're a separate company. The builders are the ones that hire the electrician, the tile guy, the concrete guy, and puts it all together. And then the developer is typically the one that works with the permits and obviously has the money, etc. So the builder is at the mercy. The developer is at the mercy of the builder, and then the buyers are at the mercy of the developer. And the builder gets paid weekly, monthly, whatever. The developer doesn't get paid anything until they get that closed. So kind of a disclaimer. I'll probably say that a couple more times. I see it a lot of times. I see the buyers getting angry with the developer, and believe me, they want to get closed ASAP.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that until I was in this. Why would I know any of that?
Yeah, that's perfect. So we're educating everybody. You wouldn't know. You may think the developer's rolling in cash, and they may be rolling in money, but I'm telling you, it costs them money to have machines on site, especially if they have a big machine like the modular home that you guys bought. That crane is $1,000 an hour. $1,000 an hour to have sitting there. So nobody wants that there. And maybe I'll go through the process in a different podcast, but we were slave to PWSA, Pennsylvania American Water Company. In Lawrenceville Lofts, we were slave to Duquesne Light. They have a transformer put into the condo building. We couldn't get it to Pittsburgh because of a pandemic. Then they got it to Pittsburgh. People were sick. They couldn't get it into the building. Got it into the building. Couldn't get it fired up. Got it fired up. Couldn't get it inspected by the city to move it in. It's just so many moving parts, because every step of the way, the city has to come out and inspect it, and sign off on it every step of the way.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know any of that stuff at
And you
all.
shouldn't. We try to keep buyers shielded from that. It's not your problem. There's nothing you can do. You can't call up PWSA and make a change because the developer would have, or rushed them along. Or back in the old days, you may have been able to grease their palm, but now everything's done with computers. You just put it in the system and you don't even talk to anybody. It's kind of like Facebook and Instagram. If you ever had a problem, you can't talk to anybody.
Yeah, it was tough, like, because we had a rate lock in place that was coming up, was going to expire.
Yep.
And all this stuff was happening. And, like, I think, the time frame and all the moving parts changes every single day. It could change every hour.
Absolutely.
And so for us, one of the challenges was, like, because it changed so much, we didn't know if we always had the right information, and we didn't know what we were talking about.
Right.
And so we'd try to relay stuff to all these different people, but we really didn't know what we were saying.
Right.
So that got pretty frustrating. It was like, can we all just talk? Like, instead of having these middle...
What other people are we talking about?
Like the lender.
Oh, right, the lender, yeah.
Yeah.
And we had a good one too. Leslie, who I always recommend, she's usually on top of things. And you guys got to talk directly to the developers, which is good. Sometimes if you have too many hands in the pot, you get too many egos, too many attitudes, too many tempers in the pot, and things can go awry. So a lot of the new construction I'm representing, it seems like the developers are taking the lead and talking directly to you guys, the buyers, which as an agent, I love because they have to give us the information anyway. So if they have it, I think it's better you talk to them directly and you can kind of sink your teeth into them a little bit or throw your plate out there and see what they can do. We've had some developers actually financially compensate for missed rate locks and stuff like that on different developments.
Yeah.
More so Lawrenceville Lofts because it's been dragging out for a while.
That's what we were, like, wondering if we were going to get to that point or what, because I think our closing date on our new house changed, like, I don't know, somewhere between maybe like 6 and 8 times.
Yeah.
I mean, it changed so many times.
And it's just a great unknown. I mean, it was every intention to, and that was a learning experience for a lot of people, me included. Every time I sold one after you guys, I made sure I told the buyers, like, listen, we have to put a closing date on the contract. You can't, I mean, we left ours open because I represented both sides of the transaction and we had the lender involved, but the other party, the other brokerage isn't going to allow that to happen. So I tell everybody, this closing date is a moving target. It's a suggestion. It's much different than if you're buying a resale. The house is already built. The closing date's going to come. It's usually not a problem, but the developer doesn't have the cabinets on site. They don't have the air conditioners on site. And then once you get the materials, sometimes we had a hard time getting labor. I remember one time I was doing the open house at the point of business and I was like, I called them, I was like, we have to get the concrete sidewalks in. Like, now's the time. It looks like shit out here. We got mounds of dirt and everything else. And he said, you find me somebody that does concrete and I will get them done. It's not like we don't want to get it done. We can't find anybody. And I went in a couple of Facebook groups that had contractors and I was like, anybody concrete guys? And there were really nobody. Like nobody could do it or was available to do it. They were so backlogged with work. So material concerns, labor concerns, those are all issues. And we're still facing those today. Yeah. So, we went through the process. I'm going to probably talk about a little bit of pros and cons or things that went right and things that went wrong, maybe some advice for buyers that might be watching, what you think, what would you have done differently, et cetera. Let's start off with that. Now looking back, actually, where are you in the process? Let's update everybody.
Yeah, so we're moved in.
Okay.
And I mean...
Was everything completely done when you moved in?
No, not completely done. Right. I would say mostly, I mean, enough that we could obviously live there. Right, because the back was against a wall, which again, a lot of buyers watch and they're going to go through that, can only stay at the Hotel Monaco for so long. So we made a plight to the developer to let you guys, at first I think we were talking just moving stuff in. Right.
Which happens all the time, we're talking about it. And then eventually got to the point where you had to physically occupy it, which physically you could because there was everything you needed. Heat, running water. Yeah. Yeah. And then, I mean, so like our master shower, we're still not able to use. Really? What's the problem?
So, well, for a while it didn't have doors on it, and because the doors couldn't come in.
Glass.
Yeah. But
what kind of finish is it? Is it a glass with like a barn sliding door? Or
yep, it's glass it's a sliding glass door. So that got installed, but then so it has like tile in it, and not all of the tiles finished, and it did start to leak.
Get out.
Yeah, so we haven't been using that.
See, these are all things I didn't know. Once it closes, the realtor kind of is out. It's usually between the buyer and the developer, but I didn't know any of that stuff.
But we have another bathroom, like just right down the hall.
Right.
So it's like.
And one on the first floor, right?
And one on the first floor. Yeah. Right. So we have another option. So that's not like, again, you just have to you have to be a little chill about everything.
Right.
Or it's just going to drive you crazy.
It's going to eat you up inside.
And we don't want to do that.
Right. So how long has that been going on, the owner suite?
Maybe a couple weeks. I mean, we have kept a log of everything.
Good.
I would say the majority of stuff's cosmetic.
Oh, that's good.
Majority. Like there's been a couple other leaks, but we had leaks in our old house, and like you work through it, and
right.
So I'm not willing to go crazy about it. Yeah. So, it's okay.
So the developer's taking care of that.
Yeah.
You don't have to call homeowners insurance or anything like that.
No, we have a warranty, and then I've kept a list and. They have it, and we're in communication. And,
awesome.
Yeah, all
That's good to hear.
The rest is all cosmetic. Like, I'm trying to think of some examples. Like a corner in a spare bedroom where like a little bit of the hardwood floor needs to be put in still.
Oh, wow, okay.
Like a tiny piece or something,
right.
Or like one of the doors doesn't shut the whole way, or like
interior door.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or like. We have sprinkler systems, and there needs to be like a cover on it, or like stuff like that.
Okay.
It's a ton of little things that you wouldn't notice unless you lived there. But of course, you want them to be done.
Right.
But they're not preventing us from living their day to day.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point. I made a post on Facebook, and one buyer said, absolutely, positively, do not close until everything on that blue tape list is done. Blue tape is whenever you usually do a final walkthrough with the builder and developer, and you blue tape like drywall that's messed up. But we are in pandemic times, which we've already, talked about at great length in this podcast, and that is, you've got to pick your battles. You've got to make a decision. I mean, if
it were one of those things where like, oh, we've got a plumber on site every single day, sure, then yeah, don't move in until it's done.
Right.
But if you don't, then you're at the mercy of when they can get people to do work.
100%.
Then. And if you can be cool about it and be like, yeah, if it takes 3 months or 4 months,
right.
Then whatever, I don't care.
And you kind of get a feel through emailing and speaking on the phone to the developer, which you've done directly throughout the process, on whether they're a person of integrity and going to do that, or you think they're just going to leave you high and dry. So clearly you got a feeling that the developers had integrity and we're going to address everything.
Well, and our general contractor lives a block away, and I see him every single day. So.
Give his address?
Yeah,
so you can go knock on the door.
Yeah.
He's a good guy, really good guy.
Yeah, he's helped us out. Actually, like, because everything in our house is brand new, so like we had more boxes than I think anybody ever had.
Right.
And he offered to take the boxes to the dump for us, or recycler for us, which we were like, oh my gosh, like we were so thankful because we didn't know what we were going to do. Like our garage was full. We did not know what we were going to do. So yeah, I'm just not willing to go crazy over it, but I could certainly see how it would drive some people really nuts. So you have to decide how, like, what you're willing to deal with.
Absolutely. I mean, you made the commitment because you didn't have any place to live to move in. I guess the ideal scenario would be to rent month to month and just let them finish everything, even the blue tape list. But
is it because then you have to move twice? And I didn't want to move twice.
Point. That is a good point. You mentioned that a couple of times, I think.
I didn't want to move twice. And the other thing is like, so the whole house is white. Every single thing's white. And you have to paint the entire house. So I feel like until it's even painted, it still doesn't feel really done.
That makes sense.
And like, we have two rooms in our house painted right now. Like one of them's my office. And when I'm in there, I feel like it is done. There's nothing, I've got it decorated. I've got everything, the way I want it. But the entire rest of the house isn't going to truly feel that way until we finish it. And that, painting takes a long time.
Right. Which room is your office, by the way? Just for my sake.
The upstairs, like one of the spare bedroom on the left.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the spare bedroom on the right is where that one's painted too, and we put our Peloton in there.
Oh, cool.
So it's like a gym.
Are you able to use the garage yet?
Not yet. I mean, we just have storage and stuff in there now, but the driveway's not done yet.
That's what I was going to say. Is it accessible? Yeah. Assuming your garage was available, could you park in there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Super cool. All right, let's kind of reflect. What kind of advice would you give to somebody that was in your Zillow stage?
Zillow stage, I think I think like narrowing down on what kind of floor plan you really want and like can really envision, because that'll like automatically weed out a lot.
Right.
And I think like narrowing in on, for me, I think it was the neighborhood. Like if you can figure out the neighborhood, that's a big help for you too.
Right.
And doing the kind of research and understanding like how often do homes become available in this area? What kind of price range are we talking about? How long do they stay on the market?
Right.
Too, you know,
Right.
is it 7 days? Is 7 months? Like how much time, you know, how much urgency do you have?
It could be 7 minutes in this market.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to throw in a piece of advice is get a great realtor.
Yeah.
Somebody that knows new construction, trustworthy.
Yeah. And I think like, you know, somebody that will be patient with you, because, you know, you do this job every single
Right.
day. I'm hoping to not buy another house in my life ever. Okay. So somebody that understands,
Yeah.
like, we don't know what we're doing. You're going to have to bear with me.
Absolutely. I tell people that all the time. Like, as a realtor, we do this every day. It's almost like breathing and walking for us. But there's times whenever I go out and do something new and I rely on the other, a professional, whatever it is. I can't think off the top of my head what it might be. Oh, I joined a running group, a jogging group years ago. And they had classes about how to run your gait and all that. And man, I asked, they must have hated me. I asked a million questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them, I said, treat me like I'm stupid. I'm not offended. I don't know your craft at all. So take me through the process beginning and tell me what to expect, tell me what to watch out for, etc. So, and that's why I think having a great real estate agent and a great lender, closing company, home, and a great team, really. So you do a lot of research on your team before you go out at it.
I loved our lender. We
Leslie.
really loved her. She was so patient and really took time to explain things and like was very proactive, kept in touch so much. Like she really was great. Yeah.
She's old school. A lot of phone calls. If you need, what I like about her, she is in the greater Pittsburgh area. So if you need face to face, that could happen. And we're seeing a lot of online lenders and stuff like that. And some of the younger generation kind of like that lack of physical and phone calls, but she's there if you need her.
I give her credit too, because like that's like can be an emotional side
100%.
to think, like the money side of stuff, and especially like we didn't know what we were doing, and you know our rate lock was coming up due and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And like she really handled our anxiety well.
Because the money is going to be the most thing that gives you the most anxiety. And for those of you that don't know, and you may not even know this, as realtors, we don't know anything about your finances. So that lender relationship you have is something special. They know your credit score, they know your debt, they know your income, they see your pay stubs, and sometimes a buyer accidentally copy me on an email to the lender with a PDF attached with some of their personal stuff, and I reply back automatically. Please make sure you don't send me that stuff. I don't have any type of software that's going to protect me, and I really don't want to know your debt to income ratio and your credit score and all that. That's between you. It's a very personal relationship between you and the lender, I think. Yeah. So what advice would you give somebody that's considering new construction? What have you done right, or what have you done you wish you would do differently throughout the process, beginning to end?
I would say like just ask all the questions that you have. Do not feel like you're being a nuisance. Like don't feel like anything stupid. Don't like you are paying a lot of money. You have a right to answers and you have a right to perfection.
Right.
Like you're paying for it. I would say like you have to decide how much uncertainty bothers you. So if you're the type that, you know, it does just bother you a lot, you really need a plan, like you need dates, then like you've got to figure out how to handle the uncertainty of it, where it's like maybe you do need to, I have to have a plan B in place where it's like, too. I know I'm going to stay at my parents, I know I'm going to stay at the Monaco, or I know I'm going to move into this apartment for a month or whatever. Or if you're like, no, I can live with a certain level of uncertainty, then you have to hold yourself to that and like remind yourself, okay, I said I was going to be cool about this because this isn't your job. You have a day job, you have a career, you have life, you have kids or pets or parents or whatever, and like you have to still fulfill all of your responsibilities there. Where like, so this can't take over your life, so you have to find a way to fit it in.
What would you say? I mean, setting expectations is kind of what she's saying, and that's That's huge. And I grew up with parents that are like, you ask for the manager, you make sure you get this. It's just not like that when you're building new construction, especially in these pandemic times. There's just things you can't stomp your feet. I had this conversation with somebody the other day about the Lawrenceville lofts. They were getting delayed again. And I said, if you told the developer you do 1,000 push-ups right now, I'll push you through, or you give me $1,000 and I'll put you on the top of the line, they would do that. It's just completely taken out of our hands. Patience.
Yeah.
Patience.
Yeah,
is a
you just
big
have
virtue.
to have a level of flexibility in today's market. And like, we're idiots because we decided to get married during the pandemic, to sell and buy a house, we got new cars, like everything
After you closed.
before. Yeah.
Didn't
So
hurt
that
your credit
impacted your
score?
credit score. So like, we did everything
Don't
that
do
they're
that.
saying not to do. We just like happened to need to do all of it. And so every single of these big decisions was impacted. Like, we postponed our wedding a year.
Yeah.
As
a lot of people did in this time.
We had to buy cars that we did not get a single discount on.
Right.
And inventory, we were at the mercy of what was available.
Totally.
And like, the house thing, like, yeah. So we have developed a level of being cool with things.
Super thick skin. Like,
Yeah.
nothing bothers you anymore.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, probably.
So last question is, since you got married and you bought and built a house at the same time, they say one is more stressful than the other. I'm not sure which way it goes. Which was more stressful for you? Getting married, planning a wedding, or building a house?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the wedding, in some ways, I planned it twice because we were supposed to get married in December 2020 and it was all ready to go. And then it was just like, okay, move everything I planned to 1 year later. So I guess the house probably was.
Plus the house is still a little ongoing.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, to sum it all up, for those that are considering buying a new construction of any style, it's going to be what's the word? It's going to be a process that is going to test your patience all the way through. But I think maybe a year after everything is complete and you're going to look back and be like, well, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I picked my own finishes. Glad I got the house I got. And hopefully you can forget about, the little bit of the process that dragged you down or made you a little insane. But setting level of expectation is kind of why I'm doing this podcast. That's kind of why I wanted to have you in here as well. You had a success story, I'm going to call it, when it comes to new construction. On an upcoming podcast, I think I'm going to have another couple in that I represented that did not have a successful one and is still having problems where they have to sue the developer because of gross negligence and error. So we're going to get into that a little bit later, but thank you very much for taking some time out of your day. I appreciate it. And all the people watching, they're, in that Zillow stage, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just say, it is our dream home and we are really, really happy.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.